Ladies and gents, how are you? And welcome to a very special episode of the Swim Special. We today have on Max and Joe Litchfield, the two British swimming brothers whose parents very recently have put all other parents in the world to shame by having not one but two of their children qualify for the Olympics. So I don't think that these lads are going to have to worry about any parents' evenings coming up anytime soon. We had a chat to them about 2 weeks before Olympic trials, discussed a bunch of things, a lot to do with things outside of the pool, some to do with their performances and how they were feeling in the run-up to trials. We're both absolutely delighted that they've got their places on the plane to Tokyo. And yeah, they killed it at trials, did the business, and we're all so happy to see them do so well. Just quickly, I don't know if Max is watching or listening. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a problem with his video, so we can't show his video on YouTube and Instagram and places like that. But we've still got his audio, and instead, everybody will have to put up with looking at mine and Joe's faces for the rest of the podcast. So hopefully, that's not too much of a challenge for you guys. Anyway, thanks to everyone who's watching and who has been listening. And most importantly, thank you to Max and Joe for being so generous with their time. We hope that you guys enjoy what we had to say to each other. And without further ado, Max and Joe Litchfield. Brilliant. So, Misters Max and Joe Litchfield, lads, thanks very much for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. You guys are talking to me from two different locations. So, Joe, mate, it looks like you guys have graduated out of bunk beds. You guys both in Loughborough? Are you different places, or what's going on?
So I live with three other swimmers, two of which are in the squad with me, and Max as well. But I've just been sort of going around uni houses since I've been to Loughborough. Max actually lives with his friend Jack Burnell, who's also in our squad. But at the moment, Jack is in isolation, so unfortunately, Max is stuck in a little apartment. But yeah,
okay,
nice as you can tell.
So what happened there? Is Jack been struck down with COVID, or what's going on there, mate?
No, well,
Max.
So he went to he was out at the Doha World Cup the weekend before last, 10K, and. Well, as precaution at first, I moved in here as I got back from Manchester International last weekend, just in that crossover period where he had to isolate but could still train. And then basically on Thursday, I think last week, I should have moved back in with him. But then they got a notification that someone on his flight home had got COVID. So essentially everyone on the plane had to do a 10-day quarantine period. So I had to stay in here a little bit longer, unfortunately. But I'm back in. I should be back in with him on Thursday, fingers crossed, as long as he doesn't get any symptoms or whatnot. So it's better than having COVID. So
yeah, definitely. But if you just got to put up with a bit of a dodgy place, then that's not too bad, I suppose. But
yeah, exactly.
So this last week, when we're recording this podcast, this last week was a pretty big week for you, Max and Joe. Over the weekend, you took part in a lockdown litter pick, Max, didn't you? For those who aren't aware, what was that initiative and how did you get involved with it?
Yeah, well, it was just something that, kind of last year in the first lockdown, really, I kind of, I started learning a bit more about what I could do to help the planet and to be more sustainable myself. Just little changes, really. And that's when I first kind of got into doing litter picks and first realized how bad it actually is when you notice how much rubbish there is on our streets. And then kind of my mum and my sister especially got into doing it, and we just thought it'd be a really great idea to get everyone together, albeit socially distanced and in their own part of the, it's not really together at all, to be honest, but to get everyone doing something together on the same day across the country and get people out and about doing something that's really amazing. And we just kind of came up with a lockdown litter pick as a little slogan, I suppose. But it was just something to bring people together and to get people doing something amazing. And we had some really good engagement with it, and it was amazing to see so many people involved on Saturday and even over the weekend. And my hope is that it's not something that's isolated. It's something that people will continue on into the future, and people will take care of our countryside and our everything really in our country a little bit more carefully, and not litter, and not just drop things as people seem to think that's acceptable. So hopefully we can make a change moving forward in everyone's perceptions of that.
Yeah. And Joe, I saw that you've been getting out yourself and doing your little bit for the initiative, as well as your whole family. You seem to be a pretty tight knit group. And your dad was actually a professional footballer, wasn't he? So did you were you guys tempted to go down the same route and follow football, or did you? When did swimming take over for you, Joe, mate?
We both played football. I think there could have been a potential. I think if we'd have kept our football in the same sort of way we kept it swimming, that we could have maybe made it to some level of football. There's so many different levels, you don't know where you might make it, but we knew from a young age that we were quite good at swimming, and we were probably better. We had more chance to sort of make it in swimming. We had a lot more connections with the clubs, and the clubs we were maybe going to feed up into as we grew up. So there was just a lot more going for us in the sport of swimming, really. And we thought, well, we might as well. We need to pick one. I think I was about the age of 13 where I stopped playing football, and I thought, okay, I need to swim. Obviously, avoid getting injured through playing football. But having our dad as a footballer, like he never pushes into football. He never said, "Oh, I want you to play football." He was probably more into swimming than we were when we were younger. Like, he loved it. He loved sort of taking us to the meets. He loved being on poolside. He sort of helped the squad, helped the team. He's that kind of guy. Like, he really him and my mum were probably the two biggest inspirations when we were younger, sort of getting us out of bed, taking us to training day in, day out, all the taxi service you need. You don't notice it when you're younger, but then obviously when you get older and they're not doing it anymore, they obviously, it's nice not having to take training all the time. And you just sort of don't appreciate it at the time, but you just got to make sure that you do appreciate it and what they do for us. But yeah, having him as a football, it's a bit of an inspiration in that we obviously have pretty good sporting genes. Like, our granddad played cricket, our mum was pretty sporty in school. She played loads of things like netball, etc. And sort of having that background sort of just gave us a little bit more sort of inspiration to sort of do well in the sport. And then we just kind of got a little bit of a like, we sort of saw something, I think, from a young age, and it's just sort of gone from one stride to another, and we sort of pushed each other, I think, up to these levels, and now we're sort of getting to the senior stage, and it's really good.
Yeah, and so you sort of mentioned how your dad didn't really push you into swimming, into football. I apologise, but he was goalkeeper, wasn't he? And he played for, I think he started at Man City, and they went to Preston North End, and then played a little bit at Bradford as well. Did he push you into supporting any of those teams that he played for, or do your loyalties lie elsewhere?
Well, honestly, I'm amazed about this. I never really picked up on it myself until quite recently. But obviously, Dad's a City fan. He was born in Manchester. He's a Man City fan. I've stopped following football a lot recently. Well, I don't really know why. I just don't follow it as much as I used to. But I was a Leeds fan from when I was a kid. And then somehow Joe's a United fan. So it's kind of mad, really, when you think about it. I don't know why.
It's like a civil war every morning in the house, though.
I know. I don't know why. We grew up in Leeds, didn't we? So we grew up in around Leeds, just thinking why you supported that, and then I was a glory supporter. I gladly admit that. I've admitted it now. Back then.
I don't know, good stuff. But I mean, this past season, I mean, I don't know how into football you are, Max, but if this past season with Leeds being in the Premier League, that must have been a few spicy days in the Litchfield household.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I have been trying to get back into it. Oh. Joe, go on.
Yeah, go on, Max. Sorry.
You go. Sorry. No, I was going to say I've been trying to get back into it. I don't really know why I got out of it. I'm into like every other sport on the planet apart from football, which is weird considering I'm English and from Yorkshire. But and I mean, I've tried to follow leagues this year and last year, and I mean, it's probably more between Joe and Dad when City and United play, and it gets pretty spicy then, I guess.
But so yeah, Joe, mate, what are you thinking about this season for your boys? How are you
It's
feeling?
getting there. I mean, ever since when I was a kid, it was brilliant, loving the glory when I was young, and then but I've obviously got to stick with that. I can't change my team. Uh, we're getting there slowly. We're not quite City, but no one's quite City at the moment. But yeah, I sort of like when United had their rough years, it was kind of like right, hard to watch. So I didn't really follow it as closely as I had done, but it's slowly getting better now. And we've actually started doing like a fantasy football league with a bunch of our friends. I think that's probably why Max is getting involved with Leeds a bit more again. Obviously, Leeds doing so well. I'm trying. So I'm just like actually keeping tabs on the Premier League a bit more because we actually like follow. I'd say I follow the Prem probably my third most closest, maybe fourth sport because we're really into NBA, NFL, really into Max is really into cricket. I'm also a big supporter of cricket. When it's in England mainly, like I'll make sure we're watching it. Been to a bunch of games. Been to we go to the Ashes. Which one did we go to? Went to recently. Oh, it was the World Cup. Went to watch India. Yeah, went to England. So yeah, we've been to plenty of other sports, but football's still up there. One of the ones we follow.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And just on the topic of other sports, Max, I think it's interesting when you speak to people who are at the top of their game, like you guys are, and they talk about how they look to other sports for inspiration as such. Max, you've been quoted as saying, "When I was younger, I looked up to swimmers in the sport and from other sports as well. It's a subconscious thing. If you watch someone or listen to someone, you pick up on it and it helps." Which athletes from other sports did you sort of idolize as a kid, and why?
I think it was a lot of athletes really. You know, you just growing up, you see so many amazing athletes, and someone that loved every sport pretty much. You know, there wasn't really a sport I didn't do. Rugby's the only one I didn't do, and that was because I didn't want to get injured and not be able to swim. But like, yeah, I mean, obviously in swimming itself, it was always felt for me at that age and growing up, and you know, it was something that you know, there's no one else like Phelps really. There's no one going to come close to him, I don't think really, not anytime soon, I wouldn't say. And you know, he was the guy dominating our sport, and it was just someone that was so amazing to watch. I guess I don't know. I guess in other sports, at that point, it was probably footballers. You know, I'd look up to footballers, and you know, when I was a lead sport, people like Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka and stuff back in the day. Those glory days where I was actually a proper fan. You know, and I would look up to them, and you want to be at the top of a sport like those guys were, and you know, it's amazing to see those things happen. And you know, something more recently that you know really inspired me was we actually got to see Stokesy at the in Headingley last year. Last year? No, it wasn't last year. It was the year before. Wow. When he had that incredible innings and took us to victory in the Ashes test.
Oh wow!
And we were there on day 4, so we picked day 4, and then I think I was on holiday 2 days before it, and I thought, oh, this test's going to end before day 4, and then you know, managed to pull off that incredible. And honestly, that day is just I can't believe we were there. I've got goosebumps thinking about it now. But something like that, like, was just one of the most incredible sporting moments ever. You know, like you don't see that in any sport ever really. It's one of those crazy, like, you know, just never will happen again potentially. And you know, things like that really stick out, and really think, you know, that could be something that it inspires you to want to do something like that. You know, something that is so crazy and so incredible that, you know, people no one thought England were going to win. No one. We were all joking about it, saying we were going to win, but no one actually really believed it. And like, yeah, I think it does inspire you to try and, I mean, like you're saying, these things don't happen very often, but it's something that it inspires you to want to do better in your own sport. And you know, it certainly did for me. And you know, the mental and physical you know, strength that Stokesy showed that day to get over the line for us was incredible. And yeah, it really is inspirational.
Yeah, no, I mean that was one hell of an innings, wasn't it? I think even people, even people who didn't know the rules of cricket were interested that day just because it was going off. But I mean, yeah, but I suppose in terms of, you know, you were talking about the major sporting arenas. One of what has, I mean, transpired over the last few years for swimming, obviously, is the introduction of the ISL, and to sort of try to gain that feeling of a real big event with the best against the best. And I mean, we can't really talk about last season's ISL without Joe talking about that 50 back skins, which was just amazing. I mean, getting through and facing Ryan Murphy one-on-one, I mean, what was going through your mind after you realised that you were going to have to go head-to-head against him?
It was pretty surreal. Like, I kind of went to the ISL with the mindset of I want to turn some heads. I want to like go there and actually do something and sort of challenge like the best swimmers in the world. And I think meet one kind of surpassed all expectations. Really, like I went in there. I think I actually got a few top fours and I got like a bit of money and I was like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Like, what is going on? Like, I didn't realize I could do this. And then I heard about the skins and breakers were like, oh, you're gonna do the skins. I was like, okay, why not? And in my head, my coach was like, oh, well, you're probably not the fastest one in there, but if you get through that first round, you've probably got just as much endurance as everyone else in there. And my sort of goal was like, I've just got to go for it on the first one. There's no point holding anything back. And I touched in and I was like, oh, I'm in. And then going through my head, I was like, okay, let's try and get through again. And then so I just went into again with the same mindset, just go all out. It was a little bit slower, but I managed to get touch second. And I don't know, I think I remember touching and then looking at the breakers, sort of punching the air, punching the water, and just thinking, okay, I'm in the final, I'm head to head. I got my points stolen. I didn't really care about that in the moment. Like the breakers weren't going to win anything. So I was just enjoying the moment. And then I sort of got out and like, I'd never met Ryan Murphy. It was pretty big. Like I watched him win, go his 51.8 at Olympics in 2016. And I like turned to him. I think I actually spoke to him the night before in one of the ice baths. And I actually asked him if
okay, well, that's Is that the racing equivalent of pre-drinks, or what's that about?
Well, there's like an ice bath there, and I remember going in and I actually accidentally thought he was Caleb Dressel, which was really awkward in the moment. But he actually said people make that assumption sometimes, especially with the masks on, because they had masks on. And I remember like turning to him before the last final, and he sort of shook my hand, and I was like, oh, this is like in the moment I was like, oh, he's actually respecting me as an athlete. He's sort of like saying, well done, good luck. Obviously, he knew he was going to take me out easily, and I knew in the back of my mind, probably not going to win this. I'm on my arse. So, like, it's not going well. But just to be in that moment and to race him head to head in the first meet at ISL, like I watched the commentary back on people like commentating over it, and no one thought I was going to get in there. I think Max, you said something about, was it Chad? He was like, why is Joe swimming this? He's a 400 IM swimmer. And it was just like no one really expected it. I didn't really expect it, but it was sort of an outside shot and it happened. It was really surreal, really good, sort of putting my name in that and just having some good racing.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely spectacular to watch. I think everyone back at home was cheering you on big time. And I mean, obviously you were Max. You were with Energy Standard this season and the season before, I think. But this year in the bubble, you fell ill, didn't you? You had a bug. Was that rampant in the bubble, or how severe was it for everyone there?
Yeah, there was something going around for sure. I don't know if it was the food. There's a lot of pink chicken going on in that hotel. So,
it's dodgy hotel
not
food.
Not to point any fingers, but I mean, I don't really know if it was that or it was just a bug that was going around. But I know some Jimmy and Dino from London got they got something very, very similar to what I had, and there was a few bits. I think Andrew Sellerscar was the same from LA. That they all kind of fell ill, and everyone was kind of in that middle bit was getting a bit ill. So yeah, it wasn't ideal, but I managed to battle through it and then get back for the last heat, and then obviously into the semi-final and the final. So, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It wasn't a great ISL for me, but it was still amazing to be part of that team and to compete again at the ISL. It's just so new and so different, and it really is making the sport more entertaining and getting more people involved and keeping swimmers involved, but also involving spectators more and stuff. So it's something that's really amazing for the sport, and hopefully it can continue moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I think everybody's really, really hoping that it can be sort of a little bit of a platform for swimming to become slightly more mainstream than it has been in the past. And obviously, if you guys get rewarded for your work more so than you have been previously, then that's brilliant, because I'll get more people in the sport. But I mean, I suppose just going back to you two growing up, obviously, you two are brothers. You're Britain's most famous swimming brothers, I suppose. What I thought was interesting, Joe, you said in the first lockdown, when you lads, I think you lads went back home. I don't know. Maybe you could tell me what you said. We're together most of the time, and because we're in lockdown together, we work together and motivate each other. Growing up together, that must have been the case. On a daily basis. I know Max is a couple of years older than you, and Max, I apologise for letting that out the bag. But yeah, was that the case growing up, that you saw Max all the time performing well, and you had somebody not only to chase, but somebody who was an example for you?
Yeah, it's just pretty normal. Like we've said before, I think we've trained together almost every single day of our lives, apart from a year and a half where Max went to Sheffield when I stayed at Doncaster. But even then, I actually went and trained at Sheffield twice a week, so I'd still see him twice a week at training. But since then, other than that, we've been training together. We'd usually, until recently, we'd train almost exactly the same program. Yeah, it's like looking up to Max when I was younger. It was always okay, obviously I'm not going to beat him when I'm younger, but I'm looking to what his PBs were. I'm looking at sort of the records at Doncaster and just looking at what he was doing in the sport, and I was thinking I want to do that as well. He went to European Juniors, World Juniors, got medals, and I was like, I want to get that. I want to do that. I want to follow in his footsteps. And then one day we can come what you said, these brothers who actually can make teams together. And I think the fact that sort of getting to the sort of reality now is really, really good for both of us. It's really exciting. I think it's just like a night, for two people in the family, to get onto that senior stage and do well together. It's really good for the family. It's really good for us. Yeah, it's inspiring each other from a young age. And yeah, Max was definitely one of my biggest inspirations, sort of looking up, just sort of chasing him down. And then now at the point where we're both senior swimmers and we can sort of challenge each other in the pool, and it's not just me chasing Max, we can challenge each other and push each other to new levels. And yeah, it's really good. And it's not ever really been a competitive, a bad competitiveness. It's just like I say, brotherly love. We just sort of push each other to the right level, and it's never bitter. When we're sort of beating each other, it's always just it's just like he's another competitor in the pool, but obviously he's my brother. Yeah, it's been like that since I've been growing up, and I like to think he'd say the same. So yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask Max, has it been useful, I suppose, for you having somebody always on your heels, always chasing you? Do you think that you would have that's driven you on to keep improving?
No, it has been really good. Like Joe said, we have trained together pretty much our whole lives, and when we were both younger, it was never a case of Joe's going to beat me, because there's just such a big age gap. Well, not a big age gap, but enough of an age gap that it wasn't really I wasn't worried that Joe was going to beat me. And then probably 2 or 3 years ago, Joe started snapping at my heels on certain events and slowly catching me up, and it pains me to say now, but obviously he's overtaken me on certain events because he's just worked so hard over the years, and he's done amazing in the sport, and it's amazing to see that he's now getting the rewards for that as well. So but yeah, I do think it's helped. I think any brothers and sisters out there listening, or any siblings at all, I suppose, you don't want your sibling, no matter who they are, to beat you at anything. It's just fact. And that's certainly the case for me and Joe. We're doing underwater kick stuff tonight, and he was smashing me, and it was it annoys you. It's never nice to get beaten. So, and yeah, it's even worse when it's your sibling. But that rivalry's been great for both of us, and it certainly has probably helped us to get where we both are today. I'm sure of it. So yeah, and it's amazing that we still can keep training together. And like Joe said, we've made one team together now, I suppose, technically, European short course. And hopefully we can make that the big one in the summer, and hopefully make an Olympics together, which would be incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, I suppose that really, I don't think there would be prouder parents in the world if you guys made the Olympics. Yeah, for sure. I suppose Max just touched on it, Joe, about the 2019 European short courses. That was correct me if I'm wrong, but that was your first international meet representing Great Britain. And I suppose that was a really, really important step. You made 3 finals. I think you had a stack of PBs in a ton of events. And you said after it that you really needed to, at that point of your career, be stepping up and doing those types of times. Why do you think at that stage in your career you really had to swim as fast to establish yourself in the senior ranks?
I think it was getting to the point where like I'd been a senior technically for like almost 2 years. Like I went to the Commonwealth Games, didn't really swim how I expected to swim, and I just sort of changed. After that, I sort of moved programs. I moved to Loughborough, been to World University Games, but like I went to World University Games and it's not quite the same as World. I went there and swam some good events, but it's not seen obviously the same as a World Championships or European Championships. And then I got the qualification for European short course. They basically just thought it was one of the selections where they can sort of select on a basis of who they think might be good, sort of fit the team. And I got given, and I took it sort of under my wing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there and sort of try and do something. And I think sort of the training we were doing with Dave, since I moved to Loughborough, our new coach back then, we sort of like really put a huge emphasis on like strength building and sort of leaning out my mass and that sort of thing, and sort of building strength around my sort of body. And it's really sort of just gone it's just gone up and up and up these last couple of years. And the European short course was just like the first sort of step in that. And to be able to go there and do that, and then like come what was hopefully going to be the 2020 year, and sort of moving into what I think was a potential Olympics, and then obviously that got scrapped, and then now we were like, okay, we've got another year to get even better again. And I think we've done that, and I think that's all just sort of come together. And I think, yeah, it was just sort of going there and doing that, and then it's sort of gone from one step to another. But I think I can't sort of praise Dave enough for sort of how he took me on his wing. When I first went there, he didn't really know what we were going to do, like up to Commonwealth Games. And after that, he saw like, I'm just going to keep you training and ticking you over. Then we're going to really hit it after I think it was the Summer Champs in 2018. And then since then, it's just sort of been up and up and up. But yeah, going there and doing that, and that being my first sort of senior meet, and sort of going there and being able to do what I did was really good.
Yeah. And Max, was there a similar point in your career where you stepped up in the senior ranks and really thought I can establish myself here, and I can really I can kick on and improve?
Yeah,
now?
I guess like when I first moved to Sheffield in 2013, that was kind of the transition for me. I'd just done, as Joe said, just done World Juniors out in Dubai, and I'd managed to win a medal out there, and you know, everything was great. And it was like, you know what, let's try and transition this on to a senior stage. And I went to trials that year and qualified for Commonwealth Games, and then that kind of period in 2014 was very strange for me. I had, you know, probably the worst swim of my life at Commonwealth Games, and it was awful, really. I was PB plus 9 or something, I think I was, and it was just, you know, it was the worst meet of my life. It was awful. And then I guess why I'm starting with that is that the 3 weeks later, I had the chance at Europeans. So I've been pre-selected for that before commies, thankfully, because I probably wouldn't have been selected after commies. And I had the chance to go there and kind of redeem my summer, I guess. And I swam the first few days, and I was still swimming pretty bad. And I remember Tim Jones came up to me and he just said, you know, Max, we need to just rest you. You're too dug down. You need to get out of this hole. And I remember swimming like a K a day for like 5 days, 400 hours on the last day. And then I swam a 4:14 on the last day and came fourth. And I was like, you know, I just did not expect it at all. But I think that probably was the point. I knew that I could compete at a senior level on the international stage. You know, obviously that Commonwealth Games wasn't a good start, and it was something that, you know, I was probably worried at that point that I maybe couldn't do it and I couldn't make that step. But you know, I managed to make it in that 2014 summer at Europeans, and yeah, then from there it kind of just, like Joe said, it's gone from good to even better, I suppose. So yeah, I think that was probably the point I realised I could do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I suppose from then on you really had you've been improving ever since, I suppose. In terms of watching Max make that breakthrough into the senior ranks, Joe, did you make the trip over to Rio when he was out there, or did you used to follow him and watch him?
Yeah, so I actually went to Dubai to watch him at the World Juniors when he was there. I think it was 2013, which was obviously a holiday for us, but it was great to go and sort of watch that competition. I was junior 2 years after that, so it was. I think that same year I just won my first national medal, so I was starting to think, okay, this I could make sort of juniors. I could look to this in a few years, and it was good to go watch that. It was quite intimidating seeing how fast people were going, and I was like, oh my god, am I going to do this in a few years? But again, it was just great to go watch that. And then, like you said, we went to Rio in 2016, which again was so overwhelming. It was incredible to go there and watch the best in the world win, watch the best in the world compete. We managed to go watch a few other sports again, which was really good. But
which ones did you go to see?
We managed to go watch basketball, and I think we went to the beach at one point. We saw some beach volleyball sort of from afar, but kind of like got involved with it a little bit. The ticketing was all a bit strange out there. There wasn't many people that spoke English, which didn't help. But we managed to go watch a basketball game, which was around the time actually I was getting into basketball, and that was good. But yeah, to go out and watch Max swim how he did, I remember I'd never been so nervous to watch him swim. My mum always gets nervous. She was turning around in the stands, not even wanting to watch. And she had, even in the heats, I had to tell her that he was gonna make the final. I think, were you in one of the earlier heats?
I was in the second heat, yeah.
And she didn't know if he was gonna make it. And I was like, he's gonna make it. Like he's gonna get in. Don't worry. And she was still worrying that someone's gonna beat him. And then obviously in the final, it was just disaster. We were trying to keep under control, but again, we were all like that. We all wanted him to do well, and then he came fourth. But it was probably good that you came fourth by a good second. I think if it was a close race and you got just touched out, it'd have been even more painful. But I think just going there and watching you weren't expecting it. I think none of us were really expecting it to go there and get fourth. It was incredible to watch you, and then incredible to watch the rest of the swimming world do what they did at the Olympics that year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't even imagine watching my brother in the bloody Olympics or anything. But yeah, I suppose Max, the sort of same question to you in regards. Joe touched on it earlier. He made the 2018 Commonwealths, and you had an injury at that point, didn't you? Did you make the trip down under, or did you? How did you? What? It must have been. I don't know, because obviously you would have been wanting to make that team yourself, but then again, your little brothers made the team. What was going through your mind during those games?
Yeah, it was really tough at that point. You know, I'd pre-qualified from Worlds the year before, and then my shoulder hit again, and it was a tough decision to make to say I didn't want to go. But I knew at that point it was the right one, you know, looking to longevity in the sport and making sure that, you know, I just got my shoulder right at that point, and it wasn't going to rear its head again, you know, further down the line. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go out there. I was still here in Loughborough trying to fix my shoulder and trying to get back to full strength. But you know, I managed to watch all of Joe's swims and stuff when I was out there, and it was kind of hard to it was amazing to watch Joe and see him doing so well out there, and, you know, see him making finals at his first senior meet. But it was kind of hard at the same time, like knowing that, you know, I could have been out there as well, swimming with him, which would have just, again, like both of that would have been our first meet, would have raced together, and would have been in, you know, pretty much the exact same events, and that would have been awesome. But you know, it was amazing to be able to watch Joe out there, even though I wasn't there, and to have my mum, dad, and sister out there too watching him. So it wasn't like he was on his own, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, you know, hopefully we will get that opportunity, like we say, this year, and all things being well, we'll be able to go on that plane to Tokyo together.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed for both of you. But I mean, I was in terms of you being brothers. Obviously, I was watching this. It must have been about a month ago now. There was this documentary on the TV. It was about these three triplets, these three lads, and they'd been separated at birth. It was in America, and they then found each other after, I don't know, 25, 30 years or something like that. And when they found each other, they had so many similar interests across the board. They were really, really similar in terms of what they liked: sport, music, all the rest of it. Joe, do you two have similar interests around different things outside of swimming, or are you quite different from each other, do you reckon?
Almost probably identical. I think sporting world, sport in general, like obviously we follow all the same sports. We do a lot of like fantasy leagues, which sort of keeps us in touch in those sports together with other people as well, sort of in the swimming world. But then we were both into like gaming from a young age, and then Max was kind of grown out of that a little bit now. But like we've had a lot of the same interests. We're sort of into the same, like we both love Marvel. We both love like that sort of film. We're sort of into those sort of things. But yeah, we're Max is probably the more environmentalist, like you mentioned earlier about his litter picking. Like he's very by converting you though. Like, everything he's putting on Instagram, I'm putting it on there. And like I went out on the litter pick, and I noticed like it's ridiculous how much stuff you can find if you just look. But yeah, like we're very similar interests. Yeah.
Yeah, and Max, I mean, Joe sort of touched on it there a little bit. We spoke about it before. You're also an ambassador for the climate app. Do you want to tell people what the main functions of that app is, and how did you get involved with it?
It's actually one of my friends, Amber Keegan, she's a swimmer as well, actually, in Sheffield, who first like sent me the app when it was in its like crowdfunding stage, and I just donated a little donation to them and just kind of sent them a message and said, you know, this is amazing. Like I love the idea. Essentially, it's an app that will be like kind of like a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all combined into one, but for the climate. So it's, you know, it'll have challenges on there. It'll have like a social page where you can like post your own like tips on you know, how you help the environment and things you do that are a bit different to the book, and you know, things you might not necessarily find online. It's kind of just a way to bring a community together, like I said before, and give everyone tips and help, and you know, make it feel like it's achievable, because that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't see with climate change, is that it's almost too hard for one person to change, which of course it is, and it's something we all need to do together. Which is why that app is going to be so amazing. And it still is in the development stage at the moment. They're still in the stage of developing it, but you know, hopefully, I think by summer they'll have some sort of app out. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be part of that, and you know, just proud to be an ambassador for them, really.
Yeah, no. If people go onto your Instagram page, there's actually the links to the climate apps, different social media accounts and what have you, so people can go check it out there for sure. Yeah. Joe, I mean, just sort of off topic a little bit. You did a video I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago now for British Swimming. It was like a day in the life of Joe Litchfield, and I think you showed Archie Goodburn as a fan of Susan Boyle. And I was just wondering, do you share his interest, or are you more of an ABBA bloke yourself?
Nah, he was trying to be funny on that. We do all of a bit of Susan Boyle, but it's not our first pick. Yeah, I do love ABBA. Mum used to love that, so that's a carpool karaoke favourite.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Love a bit of Susan Boyle.
Oh, you got him, mate, haven't you? You got him, mate. You're a British icon, pal. Anyway, back to swimming. Obviously, you've had the Manchester meets, the Manchester Invitationals over the last few months. In February, Joe, in the 200 free, you did a massive PB. I think you dropped down to 147.6. I want to say. From I think your PB before that was a 148.6. Is that right? I mean, going at 147, you must be. Is that 4x2 relay something that you'd like to eye up for Tokyo?
Yeah, definitely. I think this last year, like in the summer before ISL, Dave was sort of after the ISL as well. I had a little chat with Dave, and it was more like, okay, what can we do to sort of just improve even more and on medley and backstroke rather than freestyle? And we sort of just put a lot of work into paddles, a lot of work into upper body strength in the gym. And my freestyle's never been slow, but it kind of just like went to new heights we weren't really expecting. And I think around like after the ISL, and I did a few decent freestyle races at ISL, Dave was like, oh, maybe we should just do it because it's the last day at trials normally. it's something that a lot of people just enter because it is the last day of trials, and we were like, oh, why don't we just sort of join in that? And the target was probably going to 147 at trials, and then it sort of just sort of clicked and something worked for my freestyle. I started like using my underwaters a bit, work on like breakouts, and sort of neatened up a few little bits in my stroke, and it just kind of came together, and I was feeling decent at the first Manchester meet, and we were working a lot. And Max the same on the freestyle, like just attacking the race from the start and getting like turning at 150 next to the likes of Duncan and Tom Dean, because we're so competitive in a race that even if we're absolutely gone by the last 50, we're going to put a fight up, and even if you're turning in a fast time 150, you're gonna get a fast time at the end. And I think sort of the emphasis we put on that really helped, and then it kind of just came together a little bit in the final at Manchester, and it was really good to see. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm now focusing on as probably one of my main events, and looking towards to hopefully make that relay team, which a lot of people are.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about that event, isn't it? It's such a stacked field every time there's a 200 free final in the UK now. It's a great, I mean, it must be so good to be in the mix with those lads in that event, because a place on that team would really, I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching it myself, as a fan. And I mean, Joe was talking there, Max, about his race strategy in terms of going out hard, in order to be in the race by the end. I mean, as an IM swimmer yourself, well, maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit further. At the world level, you really can't afford now to have a poor stroke, a real poor leg in the race. When you do look at your race strategy and looking to execute, do you try to exploit your strengths and your strong points, or do you try to limit the impact of your weaker parts of the race?
I guess it's a bit of both. I suppose it's kind of like glass half full, glass half empty kind of situation, I suppose, isn't it? But it's always tough in a medley. It's always hard to work it out. You've got people like Dea Sato who will go out, incredibly fast, and you almost know you're going to be behind at 100, and that's there's no getting around that unless you go out, well, for someone like me anyway, unless I was to go out in a PB, I'm not going to get out as fast as he is. So it is working on your strengths, but at the same time, it is, like you say, it's a bit of both. It's making sure you don't lose a lot on your weaker strokes. And yeah, I think that's something that I learned at the World Champs in 2019. I knew there was a very good chance of a medal for me, and I didn't really play to my strengths in that race. I tried to go out too fast and tried to go out with the pack, and then struggled on the back end. So it certainly is about making sure that you nail down your own race strategy. You've got to be aware of everyone else and what other people are doing in that race, but you can't let that dictate what you do, if that makes sense. You've got to make sure that can hear them in the background. You've got to make sure that you're you've got to make sure that you're hear noise in the background. Start again. You've got to make sure that you're nailing your strengths, being aware of everyone else in the race and where they are, but making sure that they're not a full. You're not focused on them. You're still focused on you, but you're aware of where they are in the race and where people are going to be. Like I said before, knowing that you might not be leading at 100, or there's some of the boys that have got a great breaststroke, and it's knowing that you might turn at 200, body length ahead, but by the end of the breaststroke they're probably going to catch you up because they've got such a strong breaststroke. And it's knowing all that and computing all that and being able to execute that in the race that makes a really good medley swimmer, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I suppose that's something I've never really considered, is that you by the sounds of things, you do make an effort to try to predict where people are going to be in the race, so that you're at a better place to react to those situations when they actually do happen. Joe, do you take a similar approach in trying to rehearse a race in your mind before you get in the pool?
I think throughout training and sort of simulations we do in the pool beforehand, definitely. I think a big emphasis recently is making sure you sort of know the target on, say, well, I'll give an example. The 203 was turning in under 120, and we both done that in a stand up. And Dave said to us, if you can get used to sort of that feeling and you sort of have that belief that you can do that, then there's no reason why when you're tapered it'll come easy. And that sort of having that sort of mindset about the race is what you need, and not overthinking it, and just sort of having like faith in like your confidence, your ability to do that. And that's sort of like how I've sort of improved, is having that confidence and sort of developing that sort of vision for the race beforehand. And but I wouldn't say I do it like constantly on the race day. Like, I think I'm quite a relaxed guy on a race day, and then I sort of have my little chat with Dave before the warm up and then sort of before the race. But I probably won't think too much about the race until I sort of get ready to walk out, because I don't want to sort of overthink it, and sort of, because by the time you get there, by the time you get to the tapered meet, you know how you're going to swim the race. You should have your plan set out way before that. You'll have been working on it, and that's when it comes together. And like obviously planning and sort of thinking about how you're going to do the race is huge. And obviously they're the little things that, as a senior swimmer, you're not growing anymore. You're not sort of developing how you were when you were a junior. So you've got to find those little things that are going to sort of make you that improvements, and going into a race with a solid set sort of game plan is exactly how you're going to do that. And I think that's sort of something that I'm getting better at now, and like Max touched on then, like sort of the same for him.
No, I mean, that's absolutely some great insight there for sure. Max, in terms of Joe's been speaking quite a lot about the impact of Dave down in Loughborough. What sort of prompted you to make that move down from Sheffield?
Yeah, initially it was kind of there's a whole plethora of reasons going on. Russ, our coach up in Sheffield, was going through a few things at the time. So initially it was just a move that we made because we didn't really have a consistent coach up in Sheffield, and as well for me, I had that was when my shoulder first got bad. So it was so that I could have a one-to-one kind of physio with me, 24/7, as opposed to what we had up in Sheffield, where we kind of we had a physio that worked with us, but it was only once or twice a week. So it was a kind of a dual-ended reason, really. But we initially came down as kind of a trial sort of thing, and it was just to see what we thought about it. And it worked really great for my shoulder, and me and Dave clicked. Well, myself, Joe, and Dave clicked from the get-go. Really, he thinks very much like us. He's if you've done the personality, I can't remember what it's called, the personality thing. We're both very blue. We both love like numbers and stats and stuff like that, and everything being planned out to the T. And Dave ticks all those boxes. So we just hit it off, and we just worked really well. And obviously, I trained with him throughout that summer, that cycle to the summer, and managed to swim really well at Europeans. And for me at that point, and Joe as well, we both just said, this is the right place for us to be right now. Sheffield was absolutely amazing to us, and I wouldn't be where I am today without those guys up in Sheffield. But at that point in time, I knew the change was needed, and it's worked since then. So he's the best in the business, Dave. He's one of the most technically minded coaches out there, and he, like you say, he does have everything to a T, and everything he's planned out. And he has such a passion for the sport. He loves swimming, so that's what you want in a coach, really. And that was one of the reasons we made the move.
Yeah, and I mean, at the moment, you guys in Loughborough have such a core group of top elite swimmers. I'd imagine training there every single day, it just pushes you further and further, because you're learning off the best in the game, and you've got the best coaches and some of the best facilities in the whole world. Joe, is Dave responsible for your underwater sections, or did you start? Were you good at them as a kid? Where did they come into play? Because especially in the ISL, with it being short course, they sort of really you sort of showed everybody how good you were under the water. And Max hinted apparently tonight you've been doing an underwater set, if that was right, and you were doing all right on it. So where did that start to come into your game?
Yeah, I was actually going to do a little shout out to another coach. So we have an assistant coach down there in Loughborough, which is Andy Wallace, who actually was our coach back in Doncaster for many years back then. And he was probably the coach that made us the swimmers we are as juniors, and he was the coach that made us the swimmers we are as juniors. And you don't really see Andy. He's not the head coach. He's not the guy that like he's put in the media about like the squad. He's just like there, but he sort of gives just as much as Dave to our squad and helps obviously with the personal connection he has with me and Max. It's great, but my underwaters was actually all pretty much from him and the assistant coach at Doncaster back when I was young. And it's just sort of like went back when we were at Doncaster, it was kind of like, feet past flags on every turn or halfway down the pool in the water. And if you don't do it, you do a 200 fly. If you don't do it, you do 20 press ups. It was kind of like if you don't do it, you're going to get punished, or it's like an incentive to make sure you do it because you don't want to get punished. And just sort of having that sort of foundation of underwater just sort of allowed me to sort of help on the fly kick in general. I was always quite naturally good, I'd say, at fly kick and fly in general, which did obviously help. But I think that's where it kind of all started. And then when I was younger, I used to sort of, when I race, it'd be like first like 150 a race, say if I was in the race, I'd sort of try and just do an underwater like turn. And then obviously as I got older and we were like, okay, we should probably make this into like kind of like a weapon that I can use on the end of a race. And we kind of did that at Doncaster, and then sort of moving to Sheffield, moving up to Loughborough now, and we're still trying to make it better. We're still trying to figure out ways that I can make my underwaters even faster. And same with everything. Like you're never the best. You can be the fastest in the world, but you still got room to improve. No one's perfect with their stroke. But yeah, like with Dave now and Andy that we're still working with, we're just sort of looking at new ways. But yeah, it kind of all spouted from Doncaster, where we did a lot of kick, a lot of underwater work, and a lot of fly, I think. But yeah.
I'll tell you what, it did.
I was just going to say, I can't give as much praise for what Andy's given us over our career, and sort of not having him working with us now is great, because it's sort of like an assistant coach, but we obviously know him from such a young age that it's just great having him there.
Yeah, and I tell you what, they certainly, those sections certainly did become a weapon at ISL this year. That was for sure, particularly on those that skins event. And I suppose Max, something that you've been a part of for a long time now is the Sky Scholarships program. Were you approached by them a couple of years back? How did you get involved with that?
It must have been after Rio. I'd seen Siobhan was on it from the year before, from the quad before, should I say. I just emailed them thinking, you know what, let's give it a go. That'd be an amazing thing to be part of. Sky's obviously a huge company in the UK, and I guess it's tied in well with my love for the environment and stuff now as well, with them, their pledge to become net zero by 2030, I think it is. But I think I just messaged them, and then I managed to get an interview, and thankfully got on the program, which was amazing. And they've been awesome since day one. And even with COVID going on, obviously I should have ended my time last year after the Olympics, but they've extended us out through to the Olympics. Those of us that are in Olympic sports, that is. And it's amazing that they've done that for us. The support they've given us in and out of the pool has been fantastic across the last 4 years. It is actually now. I can't thank those guys more there for what they've done.
Yeah, no, and I suppose obviously they have their big ocean rescue initiative, don't they? And but I suppose Joe, when I was doing, believe it or not, we do a little bit of research before we do these interviews. It might surprise you, but I was in terms of ocean islands. You did the 2015 Junior Commonwealths in Samoa, didn't you? I mean, that sounds absolutely crazy. What was it like out there? That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was really again, like a bit surreal. Like I think it's actually the furthest possible point away from the UK. So that's like a little sort of trivia quiz question if you ever get asked that, I think.
You've been answering that one in COVID quizzes, haven't you?
No, it was great. Like Samoa, like I didn't really know what to expect when we were going out there. I was expecting very third world, but it wasn't really that. There was obviously sort of little bits like that, but I think I explained it like when I went into like the town centre sort of area of I can't remember the main Apia maybe or whatever it's called, the main sort of city. It was like a little Spanish town. Like it was quite nice, quite niche. It was really nice, and then the facilities were good. The pool was a bit dirty. Like, it was like inside, but it had very ventilated the outside. It was a bit weird, but it was a great sort of junior meet for me. I think to go there, there wasn't much competition, so we kind of all went in there with the expectations of like winning medals, and we were all happy about that. But for me at that point, it was like I went there, I made friends from South Africa that I've met since then. I made friends from Australia that I've seen since then. I think Clyde Lewis I met there. He just won World Juniors like a few weeks before, and then since then he was like fastest qualifier for the 200 free, and like it's good to sort of have those friends from a young age in sort of the swimming world from different nations. And like with the ISL now, like you're seeing them more often, and sort of it was just a great experience all around. And we got to see a little bit of Samoa. We were going to go to like one of the weird what they called sort of pits in the sea that you can like jump into, and it's like really nice and like clear water, but we had to go watch the English Samoa rugby final or something on the last day, which they actually lost, which was a bit unfortunate, but we had to go support the country. So the overall experience on that, it was great, and just to see like another sort of place, like you don't realize as a swimmer, like how at this level you don't realize how much you get to travel free of charge, and you don't realize that other people don't do that. And for the places I've been, the places have been all over the world. I think I've traveled to every single continent now apart from Antarctica.
Oh bloody hell!
Maybe no, I've been to Africa. I don't know.
Wow, that's amazing.
Maybe not Africa, so that's really one we put on the list. But
Okay.
to have been to so many places around the world, it's incredible, and hopefully we can keep traveling for the next however many years.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, I've talked about that with Matt Richards and Abby Wood a little bit. How like the opportunities for traveling for you guys for being so good at your sport is just they are endless. And I suppose, Max, with going to all these events, I'd imagine that a lot of your friends at Loughborough are themselves swimmers or involved in swimming in some sort. Obviously your own brother is a swimmer. Is it ever difficult to sort of switch off from the sport? And do you ever dedicate time to just sort of turning your mind onto different
pretty
things?
Much my entire friendship group really in one form or another is swimming related. And like you say, it is hard sometimes to switch off. I think I was very guilty of that. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, I was so tunnel visioned in swimming, and that is a really good thing on one side of the story. Like it's amazing to, you've got all your eggs in one basket, and, swimming is everything, swimming is life. And that is amazing because you can dedicate, your full attention to swimming. But it can be really bad at the same time because, you need to have a switch off from swimming. You need to have something that does distract you from swimming when you're not there. Like when you're coming home from training on nights like tonight, not just thinking about swimming constantly. It's not healthy when you do stuff like that. So having a distraction, having stuff to do apart from that to switch off, like Joe said, stuff like even just stuff like gaming before, that's a really good thing to just to have a switch off, to just change what you're doing, change your state, and not worry about swimming. And it's really important to get that balance right between the two, of course. But it's super important to have that distraction, and that was one of the reasons I initially went to uni. And Joe's the same; he's at uni. Like it would be amazing to just swim and that's it, which is what I'm doing now. But I think especially in that period when you've just moved from junior to senior, it is very important to have something to do alongside swimming and to distract you and to keep you active, but not just focused fully on swimming. And that is everything, because it can get really tough if things don't go well, or it can go the other way, and it can just be it can be over empowering in swimming, and you need something to switch you off and to change your mind, change your state of mind at certain times through the day and the week and through the year, really, to keep you fresh and keep you excited about going back to training.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could imagine it would be really, really a little bit, quite overwhelming if you didn't sort of have any time to switch off. So yeah, lads, just sort of, we've only got a few more questions left for you both. I suppose maybe we'll go to Joe first on this one. Obviously, you're a really young swimmer at the moment, but when you, in the distant future, when you have called it a day, what would you like to look back and have achieved in your swimming career? And that can be to do with swimming, or could to be more generally?
I think I want to look back and have an Olympic medal. I think it's everyone's dream in the sport to win an Olympic medal. I think with sort of the events I do, it looks more likely that it's very achievable, very possible. But obviously, an individual one would be even better. Yeah, I definitely want to look back on my career and sort of know that I've got out what I put in, and I think I'm getting to that point, and I think I'm sort of starting to do that. But yeah, I want to look back and think, okay, have I put everything in that I could have done anything better? But I don't want to think, okay, I could have done this better. I want to look back and go, yeah, I've had a great career. If you had told me this was going to be my career, I don't know, 15 years back from the say time I was 30, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed that I was going to do this, that, and the other. But yeah, I want to look back and think, okay, I've done what I wanted to get out of it, and sort of lead that into another life after swimming. Yeah, I think very similar.
And how about you, Max?
Olympic medal is something you dream about. When I was younger, I dreamed about going to the Olympics, and now I've made that a reality from 2016. I want to go that next step and have an Olympic medal. Something like that is so surreal. It's hard to imagine, really. But I guess I just don't want to have any regrets that I couldn't have done any more from what I've put into the sport. And that's why we work so hard every day, because we want to get everything out of this. And I think Olympic medal would be incredible, which is, like I say, why we work so hard every day. But I guess aside from that, I suppose to be able to inspire another generation to swim, and swimming is a sport that is really tough, and there's a few people that don't want to do it because of how tough it is, but the rewards you get out of it on the other side are amazing. And things like ISL, like we've said, open so many doors for swimmers across the world to be inspired to take it up and to continue it if they are struggling. And it's something that they can really look forward to. And I think if I can inspire at least just one person to take up swimming, or to continue swimming, or whatever that might be, that would that'd make my career worthwhile, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, to be honest, mate, I certainly think you've already achieved that. But if you keep going, then that won't do any harm, for sure. And just quickly, I've been asked to ask you, lads, who you think would be good to get on the podcast. Who's a good laugh? Who'd be able to have a good chat with?
ISL swimmers.
Okay, cool.
Like
good stuff.
As in, like, do you want any ISL?
It doesn't matter. Anyone, mate. It could be any Tom, Dick, or Harry. Anyone, mate.
Abby and Matt. You already had Abby and Matt, haven't you? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think any of the breakers, if you have contacts with the breakers, would be pretty up for it. I think.
Okay, cracking.
They all seem pretty sort of into this sort of thing. I think they'd be up for sort of helping out and get more of an international perspective. Lukey G would.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah, Luke Greenbank. Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Another northern lad as well. Yeah, another northern lad as well, which never goes amiss. Anyway, lads, you've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries.
It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. And best of luck. We're looking forward to trials, and we'll be following your progress very closely. Thanks again, boys.
No worries. Thank you very much. Cheers.
No worries. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to an episode of the Swim Special. Everybody here at ISL News greatly appreciates it. Do not forget to catch us on whatever platform you use to hear your podcasts, and also give us a follow on Instagram at iswimleague_news. That's where you can find all the best content about swimming, in particular the ISL and the upcoming ISL Season 3. We're going to be putting the videos of these podcasts onto YouTube, as well as clips. And also, we're going to be putting those clips onto Instagram as well. So don't forget to catch us there. Thanks very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. Cheers.